Good morning. Welcome, everyone. My name is Lewis. As you know, we are here with the BoSTEM initiative from United Way. For today's virtual session, we're going to be talking about STEM career pathways, or better known as STEM chats. Today, we have a special guest talking about his career pathway into a STEM industry that is new to the BoSTEM family. Coming from Shape Therapeutics, we have a STEM professional here to talk about how he pursued a STEM career and ended up at Shape Therapeutics. Without further ado, I'd love to welcome our guest, Robert Fragoza, to talk about his career at Shape Therapeutics. Welcome, Robert. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very excited to be here, and thank you guys for the opportunity to speak with you guys today. My name is Robert Fragoza. As you just stated, I'm a scientist with Shape Therapeutics. Just to tell you guys a little bit about what we do at Shape. So many of you guys may actually know this, but in case some of you guys don't, in cells, we have something called RNA. And what that is it's actually, and many of you guys have probably heard about DNA, but DNA will actually get copied into RNA, and then RNA will do a lot of cool, fascinating things in cells, including, for the most part, turning into the proteins that are really the workhorses of cells, doing all that really cool biology that helps our cells tick and makes us who we are today. And what we're trying to do at Shape Therapeutics is take advantage of some of the cool properties that are of RNA and help actually address sometimes the changes that will happen in DNA that can lead to diseases in humans. You know, by taking advantage of some of that fundamental biology and those interactions between RNA and proteins, we're trying to develop the next set of therapeutics to combat a lot of the debilitating diseases that we see within the population. But today, what I really want to do is give you guys a little bit of background as to how I managed to end up in this really exciting career. And you know, if I'm really lucky, hopefully convince some of you guys that STEM's really the way to go as well. So let me tell you guys a little bit more about how I got started. And I think I'll start in middle school, high school. For me, I was always obsessed with mathematics and science. If there was a science course I could take or a math course I could take, I was doing it every time. It's just what I love to do. And so in high school, you know, because I really loved chemistry and math. So for me, I knew when I went to college, it really had to be a blend of those two. And it actually wasn't biology that I pursued at first. I pursued chemical engineering. It felt like the right blend of it too. And so for me, it was, I wanted to go to a big university, meet a lot of new people. And very importantly, I wanted to get involved in research too, because I knew I really liked science. So any opportunity to be on the cutting edge of science, the new science, that's the type of research that's always coming out, that's what really mattered to me. Now, but about chemical engineering, super rewarding degree. Really glad I got to pursue that. But I also want to be a little bit frank about things. Engineering can be a really, really tough major, guys. And I will confess, for my first 2 years, I actually struggled a little bit with chemical engineering. But, and I hope if there's one thing you guys get from this, you know, when you run into those struggles, it's really important to just kind of double down, remembering why you really want to go after this and really just giving it everything you got. And that really made the difference for me, because after those initial struggles, from that point forward, I was making it on the dean's list, getting those great grades, and I managed to graduate with academic honors. And that wasn't because I was just some super clever kid. It was just because, it's something we can all do. You really put your head down and work hard at it. And trust me, it really, really pays off. But in terms of how I wound up switching into a research type degree, what happened is, and again, the whole reason I wanted to pursue one of these big universities is because there you'll have a lot of professors in the STEM fields where they have their own laboratories and they're pursuing these really exciting research ideas. So the way I got involved was, I knew a lot of my friends were involved with it, and whenever they talked about the research, it always sounded so cool to me, and I knew I wanted to be a part of it. So I just started, flooding the email. I looked up all the emails of the professors in my department, and then just started shooting them emails in hopes that someone there will give me that opportunity. And for those of you who might be interested in a research career, I'll give you a little bit of a secret there. What you really want to do is go, since you're at a big university, or if you choose to do that, everyone will have different pursuits. You do what's right for you. But for those of you who go after those big schools, they're always going to be hiring new professors. And the new professors are the guys who really, the individuals you really want to email, because they don't have, and I'll talk about graduate school in a little bit, but they don't have students yet. So whenever they get an email from an excited student who wants to contribute, that's your shot. So that's a high probability way of doing it, but really just shooting out those emails and doing your best to get involved. I got lucky. A professor responded to my email like, yeah, we have an opportunity here. So I got involved in research, really, really loved it. My professor became a really strong mentor and advocate for me. So I was really happy to develop that close relationship, that bond. And it really meant a lot to me when he told me that, Robert, I think you could be pretty successful at a PhD degree, a PhD career in research. And that was something that hadn't really been presented to me before. So it was something new, but something I really wanted to try based on the motivation and the suggestions, advice I was getting from others. So I applied to PhD programs. The key to getting into those type of programs is making those bonds with your professors, because then they'll write those nice, strong little letters of recommendation that you're going to need to get in. And then that became a transition for me because it turned out my mentor was involved in biological research. So for me, even though I love chemical engineering, fantastic career for any of you guys who are interested in it, I wanted to make that switch. And so I got involved in a field called molecular biology, where you're really studying, again, what I mentioned at the beginning, DNA, how it gets copied into RNA. What are those proteins doing in the cells to really make them function? And so just a little bit about graduate school too. It really shifts gears. It's no longer so much about the academic part of it, but now what you're doing is you're pursuing that research that makes it into the textbooks that you were studying as an undergraduate. So you're really on the frontiers of new biology. And for me, I was particularly interested in DNA. Just a little bit of technical details. In each one of your cells, you've got up to 3 to 4 billion different base pairs of this A, C, G, T. And it really takes a lot of skill, because we've actually, on a technological skill set, we've gotten really, really good at reading out all these different base pairs that we have in our different cells. And now the real challenge is when you got 3, 4 billion of these base pairs in each one of your cells, how do you actually make sense of all of that? So it becomes this question of big, big data. And that's where I was so lucky to have had that engineering background, because it teaches you how to develop those computer science skills, the programming skill set, because it takes a long time to read manually A, T, G, C, but you can do it pretty quickly and efficiently when you know how to code. So I could blend in a lot of what I learned as an engineer, as an undergraduate, with the research skills that I was learning as a graduate student. And that's what turned into my graduate career. So yeah, it became research, producing that new science, with working together with my lab colleagues, with my professors, to find that new knowledge and blend our skill sets together in order to find something new. And that was graduate school for me. And then, it is a lot of school, I admit, but just a little bit more for those of you guys who might be interested. When you're pursuing a PhD in the STEM fields, really important to remember that it's free for you guys if it's in STEM. Your professors have research grants, and that pays for it. So this doesn't have to be an expensive route. It should be a free route for you guys. Just put in that hard work at your local university that you go to, and make sure you pick a school that is really right for you, somewhere you think you can succeed. And if science is really the goal for you, somewhere you can get those research opportunities. And then when you get into those PhD programs, don't worry about the bill. It gets footed by someone else. Fellowships available. It can all be done. All you got to do is put in the hard work. And it's a lot of work, but if you want to do it, it's there for you. And then just to kind of wrap that up. So once I finished up my PhD, academia is a lot of fun. I learned an absolute lot. So grateful for the experience. But I knew I finally wanted to transition back into industry. And the beautiful thing about PhD programs is you don't have to stay in that academic setting in these big research universities. There are a lot of opportunities out here, particularly in Boston and the Cambridge area, where you can take your STEM degree, whether undergraduate or PhD, whatever it is you guys want to do, and you can find those technology companies and really put to work both that engineering background, science background, whatever it is you decided to pursue. Those opportunities are here for you. So I think I'll leave it at that. And Louis, let's continue this conversation.
Yeah, so really awesome. So Robert, we already are assuming that, PhD right out of the, right out of high school was in the plan for you. What kind of, I mean, is that an assumption, or is that safe to kind of Because that's what I'm reading from what you're sharing with us, that a PhD track is something that is totally possible, but was certain for you because of the interest that you had. Um, Now, is that safe to assume?
Well, Lewis, actually, let me correct a little bit on that. Perhaps I should have been a little bit more clear. So for me, I just knew I really wanted to be a part of engineering because again, I really loved chemistry at the time and I really loved mathematics. And it was through but it's okay. You don't have to have everything figured out so early. At least I didn't. When I was an undergraduate, somewhere around my second, third year, that's when I knew my interactions with my fellow classmates who were involved in research. And it just sounded so cool when they were talking to me about it. So I wanted to get an exposure to it. And, in college, that was where that exposure really came in. And that's when I started flooding emails to my professors, trying to find a way to get into a laboratory. And then that's when you get that fundamental experience where you really figure out, hey, is this really the right track for me? And if it is, wonderful. If it's not, you learn something along the way, and that's invaluable. So for me, it was getting that initial exposure, getting my feet wet, and then realizing, hey, I really do like this. And then getting that positive reinforcement from the people around me that I knew, this is a chance worth taking. And I do want to just make one more emphasis. Sometimes, at least when I was an undergrad, I thought, oh, I actually first thought PhD. No, that's for the really, really smart kids. That's not me. I'm just trying to hang in here. That's not really the way to think about it. It's about getting exposed to research and figuring out whether you like that laboratory setting. You can, if you're really successful in that. In fact, my research mentor, he actually, he got good grades, but he wasn't, he readily admitted to me there were other students who did a little bit better in the classroom setting than him. But it's because he was so productive in the research laboratory and he was so dedicated to it. That's what shined through. So if you really like that research aspect, get that exposure first, and then you'll see that opportunities will start to manifest themselves if you're really dedicated to it. The key word here is exposure, and the other thing is hard work once you get there. I think that's the lesson, at least that I can relate to you guys.
Awesome. No, that's really helpful. And thank you for clearing that up because a lot of the times when students hear PhD, they think that you have to be a super smart or like a scholar in STEM to achieve that track. But as you're mentioning to us, this is something that can align both skill and passion and is something that is available to all levels of intelligence within the STEM field. So
And
thank you
I
for
want to
clearing that up.
emphasize skill and passion and just dedication to the work. I mean, if you're the smartest guy in the world, fantastic. But I can only speak for myself. I thought I was reasonably clever, but the really thing that mattered was that dedication and effort and just commitment to the field. And I think that in general, if this is something you really want to be pursuing, don't give up on it. Challenges will come up in any career path. Your job, the best advice I can give you is, remember why you're going after it and double down. If it's what you want to be doing, I believe it from the bottom of my heart. Stick with it. You're going to be all right.
Absolutely true. I mean, we mention it here all the time within the BoSTEM initiative of, the STEM community being so welcoming and supportive of all because they want to have different perspectives. They want to have different skill sets because that's what makes the team stronger. So it makes me think, Robert, what was it like to know that, you had to send out those emails to those professors? I'm thinking about our middle school students who might be a little bit more introverted or might not know or feel confident in doing something like that. What did you find to be helpful to kind of certify, like, listen, I have to step out of my comfort zone and do this because I need to get to that next step? What did you find to be helpful or kind of supported you along that? I'm thinking about those students that might find something like that a little bit uncomfortable.
Absolutely great question. And first, let me relay that I'm always a little bit uncomfortable. I'm always a little bit on the edge because it does it, at least for me. And some people are just really, really good at this. And that's great if that's you. But for a lot of us, it can be a little bit intimidating. Like, hey, this guy doesn't know me and I'm just shooting him this random email. What if he doesn't? What if he just replies no? And the reality is rejection does happen. The most common thing that'll happen is you just don't get an email back. And you know what? That's okay. Because what really helped is what I learned is it isn't about you. It isn't like, oh no, you're not good enough. What it really is these are just really busy individuals. And sometimes someone just doesn't have the time to get back to your email. It's not a statement on you. It's just a statement of where that laboratory is at the time. So when rejection unfortunately comes, don't think of it as, oh, I guess I just wasn't good enough. It's not about that at all. It's about just finding the opportunity showing itself up and you being dedicated enough to find that. So I actually found that the email was a little bit easier because it's anonymous. It's just you typing to a person you maybe probably haven't met before. So that made it easier. But another route that really works is when you're at these big schools, oftentimes professors will give presentations either on their research at local presentations that are presented on campus, or even during lectures as you start to engage the material in a big class setting. If you do really well in that class and you go afterwards, ask your professor, oh, hey, first, let me just ask them about the material. And then you just routinely make those interactions. It makes it a lot easier because one, you have this platform like, hey, I'm fundamentally learning. I had that question on that physics problem you presented or that computer science problem. I was thinking about it this way. What do you think? One thing to know about professors, they always, always, always love talking about science. And if that's what you love, you're always going to have that common thread. And once you have that common thread, it makes it so much easier to get past that introvertedness, which I know is hard. It's really hard. And it can even be intimidating raising your hand in class and going, oh man, I hope nobody thinks my question is silly. If it's about the science, I can't speak enough here. Whatever question you had, there are at least 20 other kids in that room that have the exact same question. So it is tough to get over it, but just realize, or at least for me, when you're not alone and you know it's all about the science, not about you or some evaluation of you, that made it so much more, I was able to take these insecurities and just kind of put them over there for now. So it is tough, but I want you guys to know it is something with practice, with effort, and with dedication to the science, you can move past it. But it's doable, guys. You don't have to be that natural extrovert. Just try hard and it can happen.
Absolutely. I love your messaging here, Robert. You're kind of highlighting that this is a journey, right? This is something that might be difficult at first, but with practice, with dedication, with commitment, you'll kind of get to a place where, oh, wow, this starts to make sense, or I feel a little bit comfortable, or I'm really starting to get strong in this field. We here at the BoSTEM family call that the growth mindset, where a lot of students might feel
Ah,
like, oh my gosh, that's impossible. I can never do that. But really changing that perspective and saying, I don't know it yet, but I'm going to learn it so I can, be that much stronger. So thank you for reinforcing that concept.
well, that's the first time I heard that term for it. Once you said it, I instantly knew what you meant, but I love that term. Because just to reinforce that a little bit, again, when I was a high school student, it was just intimidating being at this big research campus. Because my class, in elementary school, there may be only a few hundred kids with me. And then middle school, I thought was huge. There's like 300, 400 kids. Then I thought high school was big. There's 1,000 kids here. And I got to imagine a lot of you Boston kids have way bigger. It's like, oh, this guy's talking about really small school. But for me, that was intimidating. But, you go at it, you make friends along the way. And what becomes intimidating, my freshman year, you tell me, oh, Robert, you're going to do a PhD one day. What are you talking about? But you get involved and you never know where this is going to take you. But I truly, a little bit corny, I admit, but I do really believe if you're in engineering, if you're in science, you can do anything if you stick with it. And suddenly those things that seem a bit intimidating at first, just put your head down and give it a shot and see where you end up, because you might end up somewhere really nice. You just got to go after it.
Absolutely. And you have a whole community that you can lean on. If there's something that you don't know, there's teams that you're mentioning, right? Friends or people in your network that you can kind of work together or collaborate with to kind of get to that result. I mean, it's such an inspiring time to, consider the STEM industries.
Absolutely. And if I may make, because you said a great keyword there, collaboration. For those of you guys who it helps, I want you to know you're never, ever on your own for any of this. When I was trying to get get really good at engineering, get my grades up, do that kind of thing. It didn't happen overnight. I started, working far more closely with my classmates. How do I tackle this particular homework right? And then you guys realize you're in it together and you start to learn, the difference here between me and this individual is, how much work can I put into it? And that really made the transition. When I went into the PhD, oh, I'm in the laboratory by myself for these long days. That's not true at all. Your colleagues are right there with you along the way. And you know what? Where I learned the most wasn't actually from my professors. It was my colleagues along the way. Oh, I got this CS question. I'm not sure how to, how do I implement this particular data structure, whatever you want to call it. Oh, I don't know how to do that. But my friend Juan, he's such an expert at this. We hang out all the time, and I just go down the hall, ask Juan, like, hey, I'm working on this thing. And that beautiful collaboration that manifests from it, you really, your peers, honestly, you wind up learning way more from them than you learn a lot from your professors too, don't get me wrong. But those collaborations that you pursue throughout your life, even when you're finding an industry, it's my work colleagues around me who are teaching me so much. So that collaboration work, that's the key. And then that's what I love. Your peers are in there with you. You're not on your own.
Absolutely, absolutely. So students, as we can see here, there's a lot of opportunity for you to explore, to build on your curiosity, to collaborate with others, to share ideas, and really just try to expand the horizon as far as what is available to you within the STEM fields. Robert, I can't thank you enough for your perspective, because the mentioning of this PhD track as an open opportunity for all is really, really something that the BoSTEM family is struggling to kind of articulate, because most folks understand the PhD track as a scholarly kind of track, but no, that's something that anyone who loves and is passionate in science can pursue. So thank you for really breaking down that stereotype around that track.
Guys, we need more scientists out there too. The more of you guys I could convince, by all means, we can always use you guys. These are difficult problems we're going after. The more, the merrier.
Absolutely. So Robert, I mean, we know now that you are working in research, so you're at the PhD level, STEM professional, definitely. I'm thinking about those folks that you might collaborate with at different levels. Would there be any opportunity for students who might be listening to the STEM chat today to step into those roles to kind of support others? I'm thinking someone that might be an assistant to you in the research field, or someone that might carry out a process, related to the research. Is there any other opportunity outside of just a PhD track that our students can consider?
Absolutely. Again, I want to emphasize this is something you don't do on your own, and you need collaborations with people from all different types of fields in order to make this work. So just within my own little organization, you're frequently at my level, it's a scientist level, that is the PhD track, admittedly, that's where I came from. But there is a lot of work to be done. And what happens is we frequently will take in companies like ours and related ones will take in interns from the undergraduate level who haven't, committed to a direction like that and maybe want to take a different route. And you come in at a research assistant type level. And that's where you can also get that initial exposure where you're starting to learn how to work with pipettes, work with cells, do those initial clone. I know these are big terms, I apologize, but when you get into the workforce, you start learning it. It's your opportunity to get engaged with it and find out, is this really right for me? So those internships of opportunities are available for you. You just got to do the homework of really start looking for them. And at your local universities, you can find those opportunities. You just got to be out there looking for them. So there is the level of research. I want to emphasize something a little bit different too. What's always, always important is communication skills. For those of you who can, maybe the research track isn't the right track for you, but you still really want to be involved. There is no funding for us if we can't communicate the type of breakthrough research that we're after, those therapeutics and medicines that we're trying to make. So you have people who are in charge of that human development and that's, actually leading the business side of it to find that, in reality, the money we need in order to pursue those therapeutics. There's that side of it. There's business administrative sides of it. I want to be involved with STEM, but I want to be more, doing the management sides of it. Of course, we need those kind of people too. All kinds of professionals are here, and we work together to try and make this work. There's a path for you, but there is a lot of homework figuring out what that path is. And the first step towards that homework is reaching out to the people who may have gone down that track before.
I
hope
that.
that answers it a
I
bit.
honestly feel as though we painted a full circle picture here, kind of, talking about the dedication and really trying to find those opportunities to explore, to apply yourself, to really see, is this for me? And then, having that translate into your relationships with your professors and then your, studies into the research. It's bringing us right back to what our students can do now to kind of prepare themselves. So students, if you're interested in a PhD track, if you're interested in, the intersections of different STEM fields, I think Robert is really highlighting a message here for us that, it's a definitely possible. It just requires us to put in the work and, make that dedication to just identify what is this path for me and what skills do I want to exercise on a daily basis, because there's a place for everyone. So Robert, thank you again
Absolutely.
for sharing your perspective. It's really, really helpful. And to know that there's other opportunities outside of the PhD track that our students can kind of explore as well. I mean, there's a place for anyone here. So students, I hope that you are able to walk away with some gems today.
You said it best. There's always an opportunity out there. Just stick to it, guys. I know you'll get there.
Absolutely. All right. So we are nearing the end of our session here, Robert, and we talked a lot about your, beginning stages of your career, the transitions between, school and work, and then your current status now as a scientist in the research field. Do you have any last words or encouraging advice for our students who might be at home listening now and saying, wow, the school year is almost over, the summer months are coming up, what do I do now? I know that I have to, explore different opportunities, but how, what kind of advice would you give or any encouraging words for students who might feel lost or a little bit empowered after listening to this STEM chat session today?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I guess the first thing I'd state is, again, everybody's path is a little bit different, but figuring out what that path is for you, it takes time. It really does. Again, it was my own personal experience, but just with a basic interest in chemistry and mathematics first, then that went into engineering, then that went into this research career in biology, and then computer science somehow got mixed into all of that too. And now I'm in industry. It's a bit of a crazy path, and that's a path that is difficult to define. The whole time I was walking it down, it was never defined for me. So what I really got to say is it's that curiosity that you've already mentioned where, I'm not necessarily sure what it is for me, but I know I want to learn more about this. That you can't feed it as much as you can. In your high schools, there are a lot of opportunities to get more involved in science, to get more involved in mathematics, take as many classes as you can. Kind of a silly thing, but when I was in high school, I loved math so much. I actually ran out of math classes to take at my high school. So I went to a local community college to keep taking more math classes just because those opportunities, you find them for yourself. I wish there was a roadmap that I could give you guys and go, oh, follow this and you're going to get there. But unfortunately, that's just not how it works out for many of us. Rather, we continue to feed that curiosity that we have inside, and we see where that takes us, and then doubling down on that dedication when we run into challenges along the way. Whatever it is, guys, I'm very biased. I think you should be doing engineering and science, of course. I'll admit that every time. But that fundamental skill set you learn along the way, that tenacity to find a way to get things done, that is actually the most translatable thing for you. Somewhere along the way, you're going to find something. You just got to trust it. That really goes, wow, I want to be involved in that. And I think that's at least what it was for me. I didn't know it was going to be research, but I knew I was curious about it and I wanted to give it a shot. So I guess my general advice to all of you is find that thing that you're just curious about. Doesn't mean you have to love it yet, not at all. You just want to learn a little bit more. And I think high school is really that right time to take in as many of the sciences as you can. And you don't have to be the star there. You really don't. You just have to figure out, do I like it? Is this something I really want to keep going with? And I'm sorry if it's maybe it's not the best advice in the world, but I really think curiosity is the best place to start and just see where that takes you.
You hit the nail right on the head. Curiosity, let that be your navigation, students, honestly. There's a lot of uncertainty with the coming months. Summer's coming up. We're not really sure if we're going to have programming for students. We're not really sure if students are going to be able to be outside. So let curiosity be your navigator. Whatever you happen to stumble upon or find yourself involved in, really be curious and observe, what it is that kind of resonates with you so that you can kind of continue that exploration in the next school year. Robert, I cannot thank you enough for your share today. We talked a lot about everything from, starting off in your career, transitioning, and then being a current STEM professional. And we even closed with some helpful advice. So thank you again for being so supportive of the BoSTEM program. And of course, our students who might be listening in today.
And thank you very much for having me. I hope all of you guys have a good day, and I hope you guys got something out of this.
Thank you so much. Students, thank you again for taking the time to tune in. Educators, thank you for being an advocate for BoSTEM and channeling these STEM chat sessions to your students. Really appreciate it. And we look forward to having you at future STEM chat sessions. Robert, thank you again so much. And I bid you a great rest of the afternoon.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.